Hello and welcome to Fintech Focus TV. I'm Toby and delighted to be joined today by Cameron from Tally. Cameron, how are you?
Hi, good, thanks Toby.
Thanks ever so much for coming in.
No
so,
problem.
been hearing lots about your company and some brilliant stuff you've been doing. You launched in June.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit more about the business.
So Tally is a banking platform as well as a standalone monetary system, and we're operating in the digital banking space. But we do that with a currency that is a physical asset currency, and it represents the customer's ownership of a physical asset, in this case gold, that they can use seamlessly with the fiat currency and fractional reserve banking system through their individual banking account that we issue from Tally. This is a world first to be able to be issued with an individual banking account that's denominated in a currency that's not issued by a government. And that currency is a representation of their ownership of a physical asset that sits outside the banking system, but seamlessly interacts with it.
So this is a sort of collision of the old world and the new, with one of the most fated areas of finance with gold, alongside the digital revolution. Tell us a little bit about the background, because you say it's a world first, which is really exciting, right? And it seems so obvious when you see everything about Tally Money and everything to do with the company, but its simplicity is built on the complexity of everything behind it. Tell us a little bit more about the background that allowed that to happen.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We don't have the brand as big as a government sitting behind the money. So the money itself and the characteristics of the money, the security, the stability, the protections that it offers customers needs to be designed in a far superior way to compete with government issued money. And it is a mainstream alternative, and this is the first time we've sort of had a choice here, initially in the UK, but it is designed to go into other jurisdictions ultimately. So yeah, basically after the global financial crisis back in 08 and 09, separately my co-founder and I, we started paying attention to what really is going on in banking, what the fractional reserve system means, how we could come so close to a sort of a catastrophic event. One of the things that really piqued my interest, if that's the right word, or suspicions, was where they were doing a lot of quantitative easing and injecting into the monetary supply, hundreds of billions of more pounds, for example, over here. And there was no mention of what the effect of that is to the currently issued pounds. And so I have a public company background, and in a public company, if you issue, well, in any company, but if you issue more shares, that's called dilution. And unless you're acquiring valuable assets and productive assets with that money and expanding, the economy of the company, if you will, then that dilution leads to devaluation. And that's what inflation is. Inflation is just dilution of the money supply. And if all they're doing is replacing that money that's being issued with, different layers of IOUs from governments, where there's no fundamentals necessarily behind it, that devalues all the money that you and I and everyone else holds in that local currency, local fiat currency that we hold in a bank account.
And this digital, I guess, onslaught that we're seeing at the moment is a competitive market. We've seen massive success from various different companies, and companies that probably moved at a more sedate pace, shall we say. With this being so revolutionary in a revolutionary world, tell us a little bit more about what makes you really stand out and differentiates you from some of the other companies incumbents that have moved so quickly over recent years.
Well, thanks for some of the advancements in technology and financial technology in particular. We are seeing some new digital banks, called challenger banks, or other companies that are providing banking-like services, generally called neobanks over here, and they're offering a better, they're focused on a better customer experience, better customer service, using superior technology that allows more immediate updates to accounts and transactional information to help people budget and this type of thing, more so than the traditional banks that operate on very antiquated technology. So that's all well and good, but it's really only scratching the surface of what the underlying problem is to savers and really anybody who operates in a local fiat currency. And that is the fractional reserve banking system itself and the fragility around that, as well as all the risk that we bear as the depositor, but the bank gets to make all the money from it, from the risk that we're bearing. And all we're left with is devaluation of our currency going on constantly and by design, which is inflation.
Yeah.
So this is what Tally sought to address, and basically, again, back to my co-founder and I, we really sat down together at the start of 2017 and designed a better form of money itself. And to do that, you need to use a full reserve banking system rather than fractional reserve. Just for your viewers, what fractional reserve means is that when a bank receives a deposit, they can then gear that up and lend a multiple of that deposit out, which spreads the security of that deposit. Yeah. So your money is now only a fraction of your money is actually with the bank. They're out there making money with the multiple on that, and you're getting paid sort of a measly interest rate that doesn't even keep up with inflation. So that's a very it's a sort of it's a system that leans not with the depositor. It's not any landscape for savers. So we wanted to address this, and in designing something with better characteristics that's not affected by bank lending, that's not at systemic bank risk or default of banks or governments, that's not doesn't have contagion risk, that is protected by inflation from inflation. To have an accountable money supply is really what we were trying to design, rather than one that can be arbitrarily expanded in line with government and fiscal and monetary policy. We did need to anchor it to something, and the most efficient and sought after throughout time and proven asset that holds its value and is fungible and efficient to use is gold. And so my co-founder, who has a background in gold trading, and he'd also created online gold trading and a retail gold trading exchange, and where people could easily store gold and then come in and out of some other fiat currencies. And my background in where I co-founded and led as executive chairman the world's first IPO of a blockchain technology company that we listed here in London in Christmas Eve 2015. And through that experience, looking at why wouldn't cryptocurrency necessarily gain mainstream adoption, and why it should exist, why competition to fiat currency is truly needed, and a lot of these things are, again, my co-founder and I, we're very much aligned on, but we do have particular different backgrounds that overlap, but also allow us to deliver this type of a product. And the other things I should mention actually are that deregulation in the UK allows us to deliver this product. So before the likes of Bitcoin, which we do have to thank the creators of that, because that really did open up a lot of other opportunities, a lot of other products that could compete with the government-issued local currency. With that deregulation and also with breakthroughs in technology that allow open banking nowadays, that allow smaller companies to offer banking services to their customer base. And we work with some great partners there in Railsbank Technology, among others, and we also have some great partners in our compliance, KYC, anti-money laundering, anti-fraud prevention, all this type of that type of part of the banking side that we do with True Narrative. So these are great UK-based tech companies in this space. This has allowed us to bring Tally to market, and as I say, we started designing this in 2017. We've only brought it to market in June 2019. So from concept through to product that's out there in its first version is good. It's not a huge amount of time, and I think we've used that time very well. and now it's sort of onwards and upwards from here. We finally have a choice here in the UK of the quality of money that we choose to use.
Yeah.
Tally won't be the last one, I hope. As a consumer, I hope over the next few years, but it's certainly the first, and it's a big difference actually.
I think it's fascinating that so many of the things you were talking about here is the ingredients. If you were to put ingredient, we've spoken to countless companies over the last few years on the show, and you get a recipe for what makes a sustainable and thriving business, a business that's set to thrive as it moves further forward. Technology is, strong technology is obviously at the key of that, alongside the team which you're talking about and the diversity of background of leadership. You're then talking about a product that solves a genuine problem or provides a genuine solution, and that problem has to be usable and friendly to the user. And when you're putting all those ingredients together, it makes it a genuinely exciting thing. Now, sometimes what holds people back and what has held people back from a genuine digital revolution at various different stages within banking, in my opinion, has been concerns about security and such like of that money. And to put something that you are so solid behind this, as you said, when you talk about cryptocurrency at various different stages, it still has those connotations to it. And you put something like gold behind it, it's got to be a really, really exciting time for the future of that, right? Yeah,
you touched on a great point there. The security of my money as a depositor with any form of a bank. So first of all, they own a physical asset that's vaulted in Zurich with LBMA accredited gold vaulters. This is the other benefit of using a commodity or an asset such as gold. It is a very well-trodden path. There's a global industry to all the components that you need. It is also a very liquid asset, and you need that obviously if you're going to use it as a form of money. But if you are going to design something with the characteristics of money, it is actually more than just gold, and that's what we've designed in Tally, even though some of those may seem subtle at first. But yeah, so we have we use LBMA accredited gold brokers as well, so that's London Bullion Market Association accredited brokers. That means we know the provenance of the gold, of the metal. We use, as I say, recognised vaulters, globally recognised vaulters that are also accredited. We have insurance over it because it's a physical asset, so you don't just have your bank account deposit or money on account capped at the Financial Services Compensation Scheme of £85,000 worth of whatever's in your bank account. We actually, there's no cap on this. It's a physical asset, therefore it can be 100% insured. And if the worst happened to us as an entity, and we went bust, like a bank can go bust, and sometimes they do, sometimes we have to bail them out of that too. But if we did, then we've ring-fenced all the asset in the security trustee arrangement, so they get 99% of their value back promptly, which is the other thing too. You want to get your money back rapidly in that type of situation. But there is a 1% cost in doing that, and the administration of that, and to make it happen expeditiously.
I think you take that in the worst case
scenario. Yeah, definitely. exactly. So we do all that, and also our verification and reconciliation. We have a 5-point, or we call it a 5-star R&V process there. And that is headed by KPMG. So they are doing daily reconciliations on how much tally is in the system and how much that is actually represented by gold vaulted there in our vaults. So those type of things are they're crucial for people. And as we sort of said at the start, government issued money hasn't been backed by anything for 50 years. But you do have the brand of a government standing behind it. So if you're going to design something to compete with that, then you need to really make sure those characteristics are far superior than what people are being offered in their normal day-to-day. The thing with cryptocurrencies and where they, in my view, where they can't break through is because first of all, there's two sort of main problems, and it does all come back to trust, which is what money does come back to inherently for people to use it with confidence and trust that it'll hold, be able to be used the next day and so forth. with cryptos, you've got people. It's quite complicated and confusing for the mainstream to understand how a unit of a cryptocurrency derives its value, and then you're also, on the other hand, asking them to change their behaviour in the way that they behave with their money through an e-wallet and through different characteristics with that, such as if you don't have a backup of your account details and you lose your mobile phone, for example, you can lose all your money. These type of things. So that's, I think, what's holding crypto back in a lot of respects. Obviously, there's a lot of cryptos that aren't. Probably it's a misnomer to call them a cryptocurrency. They're not meant to be used as a currency anyway. I'm a big believer in Bitcoin. I think that's a tremendous breakthrough for the world. I think it's a very much needed cryptocurrency that's out there, but it still suffers from some of these other things.
Yeah.
So, with Tally, we actually designed something that's ready now, that people can understand now, that's easily understood for how it derives its value. And frankly, there's no one in the world who doesn't understand what gold is and that it has a value. Every unit of Tally is a milligram of gold. So if you're a Tally millionaire, you hold a kilo of physical, refined, pure gold with us in Zurich. But you have all the flexibility of digital cash, just like any other government-issued fiat currency. So anyway, security, safety, it's a proven store of value, which is probably something that a lot of people don't pay as much attention to. But the pound, for example, because Tally is the price of Tally is directly linked to gold, because it is actually physical gold of the customer. The pound has gone down in value by 25%. Against gold or against Tally in the last 12 months. It's gone down by around 50% in the last 4 years. I mean, this is not just your normal inflation plus a few percent. The real loss of purchasing power that goes on in fiat currencies, often around 7 or 8% a year. Not just the CPI indexed or the retail price index of inflation. So we are really missing out. And to add to that, if apart from this devaluation that's going on in our government-issued fiat currency, to add to that all the risks that we're bearing and all the money that banks make off us bearing those risks, and then if they get too aggressive or go too far, or the wind changes that because it's quite a fragile system, we're then still, as taxpayers, bailing them out. And we're still not getting any reward for that. So it's just, there was an opportunity, and certainly it's timely, to have a better option for people to use as money, as mainstream money, and that's what Tally delivers.
That's where it arrives. So we're talking about a very usable product. We're talking about a product that has significant security to it, and it's going to hold your money and make it more valuable alongside it. It seems like a product which there's not to love about it, right?
One thing I should say, and it's important people realise this, because it is a foreign currency, there is foreign currency risk, and that is that the price of Tally against the local fiat currency that you're depositing into your Tally account, that automatically converts to Tally, or when you spend it, which automatically converts into the local fiat currency that you want to use it, there is foreign currency risk. So the value of Tally versus the local fiat currency can fluctuate, but because it is gold only ever dips. It never stays down. Whereas fiat currency, by its design and only having value by an authority saying it has value, it is historically always a race to the bottom as far as value goes. So that is something that people should just be aware of. There can be a fluctuation in their purchasing power, but it's if that was the case, it's usually in the short term.
And that's the nature of FX.
That's right. And it is a standalone foreign currency, even though it's been designed by the private sector. And so when you're travelling with it, though, we don't have foreign currency costs going to customers. They're still getting the global spot price of gold. Whether they buy a cup of coffee or a car with their Tally, they're still getting the same spot price of gold with no FX margins added. We don't charge transactional costs. So for coming in and out of a precious metal, we don't charge for that. We have a simple, this is one of the other things we wanted to bring to banking, was some transparency. There's a lot of hidden charges. There's hidden risk, but there's also hidden charges and margins added to FX spreads and things like this that banks do, that we get charged because we like the convenience of it. So we don't have any FX margins, any FX fees or margins added. You're getting the global spot price of gold. We don't have transaction costs. We have a single simple monthly subscription fee that is equates to 0.1%, so 0.1% of your average monthly balance, and this is charged monthly. And for any tally that you hold over $500,000 tally, that is halved. It's 0.05% per month on that balance. So yeah, effectively that's £1 worth of tally for every £1,000 you have on an account.
Yeah.
And then you get all those benefits as well as the cost savings as well as the protections.
Well, that's the piece, isn't it? For a consumer, it's about, you know, what's in it for me. Who should be talking to you? Who's in that customer base? Who do you want to be talking to, and how do they find you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, to start, to open a tally account, they need to be a UK resident. We will move into other jurisdictions ultimately, but initially this is our starting point. They can access it through the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. So they just type in Tally Money, it'll take them straight to the app. People who should be using it, I mean, hopefully from listening to the qualities of the money, and people will start to understand why it benefits them. But it can be people who are saving money, who want to make sure that their money is held safely, that they have access to it when they need it, that they have control of their asset rather than a bank utilising this to generate revenues for the bank, where their deposit stays a deposit with Tally. It's for people who maybe are travelling regularly or now and again that don't want to be paying exorbitant foreign exchange costs and international transaction fees. Well, the savings is great because you are protected from inflation, and that's the biggest, apart from bank risk, which also has an effect to your money. Inflation is what is devaluing your money constantly, and it's by design. And this is the ridiculous thing: we never have a good year in inflation, So, nobody ever sort of says, "I remember when we were, 20 at the pub, and beer used to be priced so much higher than it is now." I mean, nobody's ever said this because it just doesn't happen with fiat currency. So your money's always losing value in a fiat system. With Tally, you've got a physical asset that holds its value and has proven to hold its value throughout time. And that's an important difference. So for savers, we find generally there's no real landscape for savers unless you had something like Tally being used. So we have people who are savers, who travel. Some people, kind of are looking at the fact that we're in a gold bull market at the moment, and that they'd like to maybe have some exposure to that, and they don't know how to go about it, and they want the easiest way of doing that, and the most inexpensive way really is Tally. And you still have the full flexibility of cash, effectively, to spend it when you want. Those type of people. We have people who perhaps have lost a bit of confidence in the, in government and the central bank's ability to manage monetary policy, or in the government's case, fiscal policy, and manage the value of our currency. And then we have, we have people who might be a combination of some of those reasons. But they're our primary segments, we're looking forward to uncovering some new segments that we're probably not yet aware of, which we can only see once the product is out there.
Well, look, it sounds like it's been a fantastic start for you. Congratulations on everything that's come so far with the business.
Thank you.
And I'm very much looking forward to seeing the story as it develops out and it continues the revolution that we're seeing at the moment in the financial markets. It's great timing. I think so many things have collided at the right sort of time for something like this to come through. So very excited to hear more about the business.
That's fantastic. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks for sharing the story. Thanks for coming and talking to us about it. And thank you to all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and please do get in touch if you want to hear a little bit more. And we'll see you soon again on another episode of Fintech Focus TV. Thanks for watching.